Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Lilu Nishmasimi Merosi Ruspas Mordechai. As we had been doing in the last few days, we're going to start off this year with Perek Tehillim, L'zechus Refuah Shlema of all those injured in this terrible war, all those who are captured for the safe return home, Lilu Nishmas, all those who lost their lives. Kiddush Hashem. Maskila David, Kuf Amud Beis. Maskila David, B'yoisoi b'amaros filo. Koili eladino yezah, koili eladino yezchana. Neshpoich lefanov sichi, tzarasi lefanov agid. Misatei volai ruchi, v'ato yodat nesivosi, b'yachzu aleich tom nufachli. Habeit yominu re'ei ve'en li makir. Ovad menois mimeni, ein deresh lenafshi. Zoakti lecha adonai, amarti atom achsi chelki be'eretz hachayim. Hakshiva rinosi kidaloisi mioid. Hatzileni miroid fai ki omtzu mimeni. Hoitzia mimazger nafshi loidois shemecha. Yechtir tzadikim ki sigmar lolo. Yachin kol beis Yisrael. Hanesulim batzora v'shivyo. Imdim ben bayom u'ben bayabosho. Hamokim rachim aleim mitzim mitzol v'ochem ha'afel lo'ira u'mishiv legulo. Hashto. Bagalo bizman koriv v'limar omein. Boys, we're going to ease in slowly into the emails. Today's daf is daf samach hey. So we'll do a little chizuk videos, pictures, and emails that are going to get to the shir. Slowly we'll ease our way in. Hi Rabbi, I'm Persian and my mother's side is from Mashhad, a city in Iran. They lived a number of years, 100 if I'm not mistaken, under the guise of being Muslims by force conversion. At an early age, 7, 8 years old, they would make the shidduch when the Muslims would come and ask for the daughters. They would say she's already spoken for. They would buy halal meat at the market and give it to their dogs to show they were part of the kahal, but not in hiding. They all practiced and taught Judaism. Regards, Alan Kahan. Over here, Rabbi Isai, we have a picture of soldiers gathered learning the daf because it's all about the Yomi. Is the rabbi okay? How come there was no shir today? There was a shir. It was put out very late. We had serious technical difficulties. First of all, my laptop was submerged in water. So that went Fife had to set up a new laptop and everything that goes with it. It's still not 100. Then we had a major issue with the camera. Since I was doing it myself, I took a short test run and it looked good. Then after the shir was over, I saw that it was stopped down at least 2 stops, or stopped up I should say. Anyway, the kitzur, if you're a photographer, you know what I'm talking about. It was a mistake, terrible mistake. So, Be'ez Hashem, today's shir should be a little bit earlier than yesterday's. Tomorrow, I don't know about. Rabbi said, take a look at this video for a second. These are another group of Chaylim learning. There's a video of them learning. Beautiful. Happens to be that I was once on, since I'm a pilot, so I'm fascinated by F-16s, F-15s, and I got my way once onto an Israeli air base. It was very difficult to get on, and pulled a few strings, and I was able to watch them and the whole tower and everything. But one thing I was fascinated by is that, and this is years ago, this is at least 10, 15 years ago, I walked into Beis Medrash, the guy was showing me Beis Medrash, and there were dozens of Chaylim just learning Torah, learning the daf actually. Dear Reb Eli Shlita, for the first time in my life, so I'm saying it's not just because they're under duress and, Art Scroll, I think, just printed 5,000 small Kiddushins for the Chaylim, and they said they need many more. For the first time in my life, I was, Baruch Hashem, able to complete a whole year of Shnayim Mikra, thanks to you. May you be zocheh to continue to give shir every single day, now in Yemois HaMashiach, which will be here very soon. Amen. Your Talmud from London, since the beginning of Seder Noshim, Hashtag Eli for MDY. Yes, I met you. I know you have your license plate, Eli for MDY. I think I have one in my house as well. Yishkoyach. Thanks for the chizuk. And now, Reb David Feinstein talks about Shnai Mikra in our days.
I'm sure that one of the mitzvahs that are pretty, if you want to call them a yisayma, is the mitzvah Mazel.
Mitzvah Yisayma.
Even a lot of fluent people are Mazel. Said that this should be the Kabbalah of everybody to Mazel in the next 4 weeks in the 30-day period in Halabai. It will last already forever because it's not midas asidus, it's a mitzvah. And you have to do it.
Rabbi said, "Masech is by Lakewood loving families, Lakewood, New Jersey, because torah and achdus are the best segula." And Parnassa Zechrya ben Moshe, Parnassa Zechrya bas Yosef, Parnassa Hatzlocha L'zechus Yosef Mayer ben Rochel, and yidden worldwide. Parnassa Shavua, MDY headquarter, coffee corner and beverages, Lili Nishmas, Parfega Bas, Reb Tuvia Zechron Bracha. The art of the month, Yosef Chaim, Yosef ben Chaya Sara, for all the schusim that come from supporting Limud Torah. Rabbi, so once again, the Shabbaton, we're switching gears. It's going to be geared more as a Shabbaton of chizuk and achdus. We're going to tone down the festivity part. It's going to be more of a kumzit situation, more of shiri regesh. The speeches, the unbelievable speeches, are going to be geared towards achdus and chizuk and that sort of thing. So join one, join all. Please do it sooner rather than later. If you're really thinking of coming, so sign up so we have more of an idea of what to expect. Rabbi Say, here we go. We're holding 3 lines from the bottom of Samach Daled Amud Beis. We were discussing a machlokes, Yosef Mayer. The interesting story where a person married 2 women. Earlier in his life, he married a woman and he had 2 daughters from her, team 1. And then he married another woman and he had 2 daughters from her, team 2. And he said, I married my older daughter. That was case 1. I married my older daughter. Now, it could be the oldest of the oldest of the youngest of the oldest, which is older than all the youngest. Okay. Reb Meir says that they're all usher to everybody because it could be any one of them besides the youngest of the young. And Reb Yossi says only the oldest of the old is usher and none of the other ones. So says the Gemara Mabai. Machlokes, and that's chart 1 and 2, Yosef. 1 and 2. Oh, Rabbi, machlokes b'shtei kitei bonos. Aval b'kas achas, divrei hakol, g'doilo mamish, k'tano mamish. When there's only one group of girls, and he says the older, then obviously he means the oldest. And when he says the youngest, he means the youngest. Meaning, if there's 3 girls, he never meant the middle one. And so is b'shma karila. Because the middle one is never called the oldest and never called the youngest. You call her by her name. So Rav Ada Bar Masna doesn't like this so much. Let me see if I can put this over here for a second. Okay. According to what you're telling me, then why are you saying that all the girls are usher? The middle one, he never refers to as a gdoila or a ktana. So she should always be mutter. Says Gemara, you're right. We're talking about b'shein sham ela gdoila or ktana. There's only 2, an older one and a younger one. Otherwise, Rashi says, it should have said ktanois, lashon rabim. Because if there was really a middle one, 3 girls, older, youngest, and middle, then it should have said so in the Mishnah. The Mishnah should have spoken about it. It says the Gemara will tameich, and so if there's 2 groups, team 1, team 2, the middle one of the oldest group, the vade sveika of asirle, since the middle one of the oldest group, she's older than all the younger ones from the younger group, from team 2. So certainly there should be some sort of suffix with her. Miktanila, it doesn't say her. Says the Gemara, So therefore, maybe when it comes to the second group as well, maybe just like the first group, we know that there's a suffix in her and we don't say it. So too by the second group. Says Gemara Hasam. When it comes to group 1, that's pashut. That the middle one is aser. But when it comes to group 2, it means the ikka. Since it's not so pashut, because group 2 is similar to what we said, it's only one group. If there's 2 groups, the middle one is certainly could be called an adult, the gdoila, or the big one, compared to group number 2, to team 2. But when it comes to group 2, that's where we should have said it. The first group, it's pashut. That should be awesome. But group 2, you should have said it if there's if she's there, you should have spoken about it. Obviously, we're only talking about 2 girls, older and young. When a person, that's the case we had yesterday, a person says, I don't like you that much, I don't want to have anything to do with you until Pesach. But he used the lashon Pnei Pesach, the face of Pesach. And then we had a machlokes Reb Meir Reb Yosef. What's that law? That the chikasach has dami. There's only the first day of Pesach and last day of Pesach. The middle days should be like a middle girl. Nevertheless, there's machlokes. Why? Because there's girls that are younger than the middle one. There's days that are younger or later than the middle days. So you see, there is machlokes on the middle. Omerle, you didn't understand. By Pesach, it's not about does pnei mean the middle, the what the middle day is called. Omerle hasam belishin da almakom, which the question is, how do people use the word pnei? Masava ad pnei ha Pesach, ad kamei Pesach, before Pesach, or masava ad mipnei Pesach, until pnei means when it's gone, that it leaves. That's the shiloh over there. All right, brand new sugya. Hoymeli isha, says the Eli Mishnah. Hoymeli isha, kidashtich. I am your husband. V'yomeres loy kidishtani. I have no idea what you're talking about. Who also b'kroy yisrael? V'muteres b'kroy vav. So this we have yidden shas, musig shas. This is chart 3. Shavia nafshi chatich disur. A person with his mouth, with his saying, he could impose on himself a piece of meat and say, this piece of meat is asur on me. This is chayla for me. It's not chayla for the rest of the world, it's chayla for him. So too, a person could say to himself, I'm asur on that woman. She's my wife. She laughs at him. She never met him before. So she's mutter to his son. She's mutter to all his krivim. But he is asur to her mother, to her daughter, to all the krivim that she has. Why? Because he imposed on himself an isser. So it's very interesting because I think we speak a lot about lashon hara. We constantly say this is asur, that's asur, that's. I don't know if people are. Maybe they're kind of not sick of it, but it's like they keep on beating it into you. This is asur. Maybe it's kedai once in a while to talk about what's mutter or what's a chiyuv. It says mavis v'chaim biyad lashon, right? Death and life is in the hand of your tongue. So you have to also understand that the tongue, when a person says, I'm asur, you are my wife, you create a world. You create a world for yourself, a world of isur. A person with his mouth can create life. He can create a whole new being. A good word to a young child. Tell a kid, you're an amazing kid, you're such a smart kid. You never know how far that goes, what goes into a person's head and what sticks. A nice word to your spouse, a nice word to your grandchild, to your child, to your talmid, to a friend. You tell your friend in shul, hey, I'm so impressed with your kid, look how beautifully he davens. You never know what kind of chizuk that person just got from your one line, especially in our days right now when people are down and everybody needs chizuk. One good line, chayim biyad lashon. You could mamish build a person with your mouth. So Meres, what about the reverse? She says, Kiddushtani, I am married to you. I'm married to you. There's a guy, Yeshiva Bachar, on a train by himself, and all of a sudden a woman comes into the train, and she sits down next to him. She says, if you don't give me all your money, I'm going to tell the police that you did something really bad to me. So he thought real quickly, and he says, huh? What are you saying? Like, I can't hear you. Write it down, please. So she wrote down. She says, if you don't give me your money. So he says, now I have a piece of paper that says that you threatened me. Over here, she's saying, Kiddushtani, you married me. He says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know you. Now, over here, it's a little bit worse than the other case. And there's a little bit of more svara here. She is essentially saying that she's also to the whole world. By her saying that she's married to him, it's not just shavi al nafshech chaticha d'isura. She's not just answering herself on his relatives. She's answering herself to the entire world. She's exclaiming that she's an Eishes Ish. So the halacha is, he has nothing to do with this. So he's mutar in all her relatives. And she's also to his. Now we're talking about very, very similar cases. The Gemara is just going to say why you need each case. He says, I'm engaged to you. And she says, no, you are engaged to my daughter. Now, if it was a father who said, you're engaged to my daughter, Maktana, he has all the right. But she doesn't have any right. Who was a Bekrovis G'dayla? He is also in the mother's Kroivim, just like the first case. Ugdayla mutar Bekroivov. And the mother is mutar in his Kroiv. Same case as the first. Who mutar Bekrovis G'dayla? He is mutar in her daughter's Kroivim, because the mother has no right to say that she married off the daughter. Or that she's married, that the husband did it. She has no right to testify about her younger daughter. Uktana, mutar b'krayvav. Again, the mother has no right to say that the younger daughter is married. What if the reverse? He says, I got engaged to your daughter. And she says, no, you got engaged to me. Who also b'krayvav Kitana? Since he's shavi nafshech chaticha d'isura on the younger one, he's also to all the younger ones krayvim, if she has krayvim that are not related to the mother. Uktana mutar b'krayvav. And the younger one has nothing to do with him, so she's mutar in his relatives. She can marry his son, for instance. He has nothing to do with the mother. Because we have four cases that are very similar. The idea is the same. Shavi al nafshech chaticha d'isura, a person imposed on himself an isser. So what do you need four cases? That he imposed on himself. What does he care? So we don't care what he says. She just asked herself in the entire world. She can never get married. We should really trust her and what she says, and therefore he's also in her kroivim. But let's say you're Kamash Malon. Even in that case. Why do you need another case? It's something about I would think that the father is believed and trusted as Biti Nosati Lishazeh is trusted that he married off his daughter. So think the Rabbanon, they took that idea and they moved it further and said that a mother could also. But the Rabbanon she said, oh, my husband married her off. Kamash Malon, we never believe the mother. Says the Gemara, Kidashi is Biteich, Hadu Lamali. So why do I need the fourth case? So the Gemara, I did Tonaha, Tonanamiha. They all match each other. So you're right, the fourth case we really don't need. It already says that he's Mekadesh. She says, you got engaged to my daughter. And then the fourth case is, I say, I got engaged to your daughter. We don't believe, okay, fine. It's just to match the case of when the mother says, you got engaged to my daughter. Itmar. Rav Omar Koifen, Ushmul Omar Mevakshin. They said a general rule. Rav says, we force the husband to give a get. In this case, what is the case? The Gemara is going to discuss. And Shmuel says, we ask nicely. Haya, what case? Eli Maresha, I got engaged to you. And she says, I have no idea who you are. Just to be safe, on the safe side, give her a get. We ask him nicely or we force him. Says Gemara, Lav Koivenika, V'loy Mevakshimika. If she denies it, why would you give her a get? She's not a divorcee. She doesn't know this guy. Elo HaSeifa, we're talking about the second case. That what? She says, you got engaged to me. I'm your wife. And he says, I don't know who you are. So Bishlam Mevakshim L'chaya. Okay, so what does he have to lose? So he's a divorcee. Who cares? So you ask him nicely. Why would you force him? You're rooting it for me. Now I can't marry your daughter. I can't marry any of her relatives or mother. Rather, we have to say that Rav and Shmuel are talking about the same thing. They just add to each other. In a case where a woman was silly and she said, I'm married to you. She made a big mistake, a huge mistake. She can never marry anybody in the world. So we asked this guy, listen, she's a nichnas baruch shtos. I don't know what happened there. Do her a favor, give her a get. But here's what's a terrible thing. Omar Shmuel mevakshim enolitin get. Omar Rav imnosa get ma'atzmai. And if he gave a get on his own accord, not if they asked him. If he gave a get because he felt like it, now we have reason to believe that there's some truth to it. Why would he give her a get? He knows that she's crazy. She made up a story. Elamai, she didn't make up a story. So therefore, it's as if he admitted that he's married to her, and he gave her a divorce. And if he gave her a divorce, he has to give her a ksuba, which costs $4,000 or $5,000. Maybe it was $400 or $500. I don't remember anymore. Some say the name of Rav. Two things. We force him and we ask him nicely. Asking more entirety, isn't that a contradiction? Says the Gemara. What we ask him nicely is to give a get. And if he gave the get by himself, then we force him to give a ksuba. Says the Gemara, Rav Yudah, very, very nice sugya. The fact that you have to have yidden by Kiddushin, what's the pshat? Is the pshat that the yidden are there so nobody could lie and say this didn't happen, or the yidden actually create a Kiddushin? Without yidden, there's no Kiddushin. Nafkamina, let's say, Adam Arishan, how did he get engaged? How did he get married? Yosef Tzaddik, he was in Mitzrayim. How did he get married? If you need yidden to create a marriage and you don't have yidden, it's finished. But if the yidden are just there not to lie, so let's see. What if you only have one aid? One aid, nothing. So they asked him, what if they both agree and there's one aid? So if there's zero aidim, we don't have a shayla. It's nothing, no kiddushin. But if there's one aid and they both agree that they're married to each other, is that enough? Says the Gemara, in Veloy, sometimes Rabbi Yehuda would say yes, sometimes he'd say no. He would keep on going back and forth. He wasn't sure himself. V'rafia biyodeh. There's a V'rafia biyodeh just means he was weak by him. He didn't know. He didn't have good pshat. There's a famous story about Shlema Melech. It's brought down in a number of places. Shlema Melech had a daughter that he asked the stargazers, and they said, she's going to marry a very poor person. Shlema Melech didn't like it, so he hid her in a tower, and he used to send the eagle to feed her. She had no connection with human beings, and until one day, a poor person had nowhere to live, so he hid himself in a carcass of some animal. A very big eagle came, lifted up the carcass, brought it to the tower, and he hops out of there, and they decide to get married. Who are the Edom? Michal and Gabriel. Michal and Gabriel. So, there's a sefer called Birkas Elisha, and he says that it doesn't make any sense, this story. And he proves, because if so, every wedding has Michal and Gabriel, every wedding has Malachim sitting there, so you never need Edom. And another thing, he says, how would Shlomo HaMelech go ahead and torture his daughter like that? Seclude her from society for such a long time? It makes no sense. And therefore, he comes to the conclusion that the story is made up. It's a Christian story based on Christianity. It's not really a Torah story. Okay. Over here, the Gemara says, what do? You need at least one aid. Malachim don't work. ואפילו שניהם מועדים. So Nachman says, oh, Shmuel says, if you use one aid, it's 0, even if the husband and wife agree that there was a Kiddushin. So Rava asks, says Rabbi Reb Nachman, in our Mishnah, he tells a woman, I'm married to you. And she says, I don't know you. The question is, what are we talking about? How many Eidim? 2, 1, 0, what? If two witnesses testified that they married, of course she should be usher in his relatives. And if there's 0, how could he make himself usher on her? Must be that there's one aid. Says Gemara, no. I got engaged to you in front of two Eidim. These two Eidim are gone. They went to another country. You never know. Maybe I myself, because there's a war or something, maybe I'll show up one day in Medina Hayam. Yet just yesterday, there was a ship, an American ship that came to Haifa, and they evacuated many, many Americans. I think they said it was for free. Just get on the ship. They'll bring you to Greece or whatever, and you just have to pay the government at a different time. Whatever it was. It happens that people go to Medina Hayam. You never know. Says the Gemara. So in other words, the war Eidim, he's basing it on the testimony of two Eidim, just these Eidim disappear. Says the Gemara, a person divorces his wife, he had yidden. He divorces his wife, and then they had yichud, they slept in the same room in a hotel. We still hold that we must say that they had relations, and the relations was l'shem kiddushin. Ein adam oise bilasei bilasnos. There's a concept: the person doesn't make his bia znos, so it must be if he's with her. First, we established that he was with her, and it was l'shem kiddushin. First mention in kiddushin. Who's your nickname? B'kesef shtar b'bia. Says Gemara, what's the case? If we have two Eidim testifying, then how can Bishamai argue on this? Of course she's Mekudash. And if there's no Eidim, 0 Eidim, so where's the Kiddushin? It must be said, our case, there's one Eid, and they both agree. Says Gemara, okay, if there's one Eid, how do you explain the end of it? And they agree, they both agree that if the divorce happened from just the Erusin, right? There's two stages, Erusin and Kiddushin. He gave her a ring and they wait for a year, let's say. So if she got divorced from the Erusin, why does she not need a get? He doesn't know her that well to be choshid that they had relations. But if one aid is talking about one aid, and he's believed, what's the difference if they got divorced from Erusin and Suin? There's an aid testifying that this is what happened. All the aid are to aid, but they saw that they secluded themselves, but they didn't see an act of relations of bia. Ma beishamai sabri amrina on hein the yichud hein the bia. So what's the machlokes? Beishamai say the same maiden that testified that there's yichud, automatically that means that there's bia. Beisil sabri amrin hein the yichud. I'm sorry, lo yamrinon hein. The last word is lo yamrin hein yichud. You don't say that the same edim are the edim of bia. Beisil sabri amrin hein the yichud hein the bia. That the Eidim that saw them seclude themselves basically are telling us there was bia. You don't have to see the bia. And he did it l'shem kiddushin, because and therefore she needs a get. However, everybody agrees that if she got divorced just from the engagement from Erusin, you don't say that the same Eidim that's a raya that they had a relation. Why did they go to the same hotel room? They want to save money. It's cheaper. I don't know what. But because they don't know each other so well, then we don't have to assume that they had relations. Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel said, Bar Marta said in the name of Rav Mekadosh Beidechot, Ein Choshen L'Kiddushav, Afilu Shnei Moedim. Again, if there's one aid testifying that this couple are married, or they're engaged, we don't have to worry about it. It's nothing. Even if the couple admits to it. This great Bezdin said that you don't have to worry about it. Man Beidino Rabba, who is this great Bezdin? Rav. The first Amoira, the last Tana, he's a great Bezdin. He said, you don't have to worry about this. And some say that Rav is the one that said, not that his Bezdin, but he himself said this. If a person in the Kaddish with one aid, you don't have to worry about it. Man Beidin Rabba, and who's this great Bezdin? Rebbe. Rav's Rebbe, the author of the Mishnah, of all Mishnayos. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he's the one that said that if there's one aid, you don't have to worry about it. As Rav Chadvoy, unbelievable story. Crazy story. There are 3 people that show up at Ellis Island, and they're holding a suitcase. All 3 of them. Crazy situation. She says, there's a 1 woman, 2 men. I love this mice. The guy looks at the 2. He says, she's my wife. He's my slave. He's not my friend. He's my slave. And you see the suitcase? I own it. And the other guy says, are you crazy? He's my slave. She's my wife. And this is my suitcase. It reminds me of the famous story. There was a guy, an imposter. He bought a bunch of police clothing. Unfortunately, this is what happened at the initial stages of the terror attack. A lot of them, I heard that by the concert over there, they dressed up like Israeli policemen and they made a roadblock. So everybody stopped for them, and then they went and they shot everybody in the cars. That was one of the things. So an imposter is a terrible thing. A cop sees an imposter wearing police clothing, as the New York police cap, the whole thing. He looks like a cop. So he arrests him. As they're walking through the street, the imposter starts screaming, help me, help me. This imposter just arrested me. So people gather, people don't know what to do. They look identical. They both have a holster with a gun and handcuffs. He's saying that he's an imposter. What do you do? What you do is you see who has the key to the handcuffs. When you have the key to the handcuffs, you're in charge. The other guy's an imposter. And the nimshal is, when you have the key to the Yetzer Hara, you're in charge. When you give into your taivas, you do another aver, then who's in charge? You start screaming, I'm in charge. No, you're not in charge. If you're not in control, then you're not in charge. When you're in control, then you're in charge. When the matzav is rough, I'm talking about rough, and you sit down and you learn Torah, like those chayalim, you imagine thinking about their families, thinking about the missiles coming and going, and their friends got killed and shot and wounded. You open up a Gemara. Then who's in charge? You're in charge. So, Nachamal, the story. Reuven says, Shimon is my slave, she's my wife, the suitcase belongs to me. Shimon says, Reuven's my slave, she's my wife. And what does she say? These 2 guys, they're my slaves. Now, I don't know, some marriages, it seems like the husband's the slave. Some marriages, it seems like the wife is the slave. Terrible things, right? But this is what she's saying. These are my slaves. Maybe it's code for a husband. I don't know. So the halacha is, she needs 2 yidden. Why? They're saying, they admit that she's the wife, and they're admitting that they own the suitcase. Each one says, I own the suitcase. So therefore, if they give her a get, then she's entitled to a ksuba, and they have a suitcase. Pay up from the suitcase, which is a big chiddush. That's the big chiddush here. Says Gemara Yechidami. What is the case? If we're talking about that each man has yidden to testify that he's married to this woman, how could she claim that she's not married to them? There's 2 yidden that say she is married to at least one of them. Oh, so you see, 1/8 is good enough. Says the Gemara, so you're talking about 1/8 says she's married to Reuven, 1/8 says she's married to Shimon. 1 against 1 is always 0. Elo, says the Gemara, when I want to allow her to marry into the world, she doesn't need a get at all. 0. Just what? She's claiming, I want all the jewels, all the treasures that are inside the suitcase. Oh, for that. First, she needs to get divorced from both of these men. By that, they are saying, in essence, that they owe her at least the ksuba. And according to Reb Meir, this goes according to Reb Meir, that what? That you could go and claim a ksuba even for movable objects. That's the big Kiddushin, because there's machlokes in ksubas. Whether ksuba is only from real estate or from movable object, this goes like Reb Meir. Says Gemara, what about a echad? Is he strong enough for Kiddushin or not? Rav Kana Omar in Kiddushin, you don't have to worry about it. Rav Papa Omar Choshish in the Kiddushin, and Rav Papa says you have to worry about it. 1/8. Where did you get this from? Because you have Xer Shava, Davar Mimamain. That what? That just like money, Al Pishne Edim Yakum Davar, you need 2 Edim. So too by Kiddushin, and if you have less than 2, it's 0. But if you're going to learn from Mammon, if just like when it comes to Mammon, when I'm just thinking to myself, an incredible thing just happened that I recorded, and I went back, and I'm waiting to travel now, and I saw that the memory in the card was finished. My mistake. Again, another mistake. So I thought to myself, okay, now I have to redo the whole shir, and everybody's going to be really upset. So Baruch Hashem, it's only missing these few minutes, and Givaldik. So I'll go upon it. It could have been much worse. That's why I'm thinking to myself, Hashgacha Pratis, could have been much worse. Teaches me a lesson. I'll go upon him. She wants... No, what are we talking about? Oh, so if so, just like by Mamonis, if a person admits that he owes a person $100, he's chayv $100, so too, if they both admit that they're married to each other, we should agree to that, and you don't need Eidim. When you owe money to somebody, nobody cares. It doesn't hurt anybody. But over here, you ruin it for the relatives. By you saying that you're married to a certain person, you ruin it for other people. But for yourself, that we already said, establish you can make something usher on yourself. But you can't ruin it for other people. Says the Gemara story, Marzutra Rav Adar Saba, 2 brothers, B'nei the Rav Mori Baris, the sons of Rav Mori. They divided their inheritance, the Yerusha. But they want to know, is it valid? Also to come in the Rav Ashi Omrulei, Al Pishnei Eidim Omer Rachmana, the Boile Mehedele Motzi Hadribu. Do 2 Eidim make the Chalois go into effect? They establish that there was a kinyan here, or the 2 Eidim is that no one should lie. If we're worried about liars, they can't take it back. But we're not liars, so we don't need 2 Eidim. But maybe no, it doesn't go into effect without Eidim. Eidim establish a kinyan. The fact that there's Eidim is not to establish a kinyan, but against liars. Didn't we just say by Kiddushin that without Eidim there's no Kiddushin? You need Eidim. So the Ktsois discusses this. If we're going to learn one from the other, Kiddushin from Mamonis, L'chayra, it should go all the way. So there's 3 cases here, at least, and we're going to do 2 today. Abaye says, if 1/8 says you ate treif, chaylev, and you don't argue with him, we trust the Eidechad. And he proves it. V'aloi shoisek nema. V'tanatuna, I'll prove it. And the other guy says, no, I did not. Potter. The reason why he's Potter, because he argued on it. So you see like Abaye that if he's quiet, the Eidechad is believed to say, on an Isser, in other words, we trust him that it's treif. V'amar Abaya, one more halacha, your fruit that's tar became tamei, and he's quiet. Nemon he's believed. I'll prove it to you. If 1/8 says your taharis are tamei, but you argue potter, then we don't believe that 1/8. It's because he argued. But if he was completely quiet, they is believed. Rabbi say, have a wonderful day. We share b'suras toivos b'mehera b'yameinu. Amen.